Greetings. Welcome to Mad Science Minutes, an examination and celebration of the proud field of mad science and entertainment. For our first episode, we tackle a subject dear to the hearts and minds of so many of us, human brain transplants, and in a somewhat unexpected genre, the Lifetime movie.
You know, doctor, you said you were going to cure my cancer, but all you did was rape me. I'm starting to think I don't have cancer at all.
Well, you're right about the rape part, but I'm sorry, you still do have cancer.
Valerie Bertinelli in Men Are Terrible and Will Hurt You Because This Is Lifetime.
Although, to be fair, this didn't start out life as the usual LMN bromide. Originally a 1972 novel by Barbara Harris, our film was adapted as a TV movie by ABC in 1985, back when that was still fashionable, and picked up by Lifetime in the years since.
Apparently, the programming people saw potential crossover appeal between a soft science fiction film and their usual demographic. Understandable, as this picture features a dramatic scene or two in a hospital and a woman with no brain. So let's vivisect right into our feature film, Who is Julia?
Our movie opens on your standard chipper TV movie intro montage, introducing us, technically, to our main character, model Julia North, and shortly thereafter to technically non-main character Mary Frances, unassuming wife, mother, and impending cadaver donor. Via field telephone, we meet Julia's husband, Don, who's actually neither George Peppard nor the guy from Star Trek and Seventh Heaven.
Are you going to come home tonight so we can make babies?
Eh?
Don, you know this is my night. I don't care what the doctors say. I'm going to have a baby. Maybe I'm just going to see what Santa Claus can do about it.
Ooh, expressing hope and plans for the future. She's dead. This is a war movie. Should be getting napalmed in the third act. Be his gunner.
After some skull-rubbing foreshadowing and the best child and Santa acting since Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, the chance encounter between the two women gives Mary's son the chance to prove that quality brains run in her family. Forcing Julia to dive to his tastefully framed rescue while Mary's skull pops like a grape. Two women are rushed to the emergency room. A grim prognosis given for Mary Frances, apparently brain dead from a massive CVA, but an intriguing one for Julia.
You're not going to believe it when you look under that blanket. Holy God. Get Dr. Matthews' stat.
They page one Dr. Matthews, aka the guy from The Walking Dead, who, as luck would have it, is ready and waiting for exactly this kind of incident.
Put out the headman emergency call. Now.
Dean May, 999. Dean May, 999 stat. Dr. Hedman, code yellow stat. Dr. Hedman, code yellow stat. Dean May, 999.
I think we're all getting a little too keyed up here. And for heaven's sake, will somebody tell that woman to stop paging me? And Dr. Gordon.
Now, interesting note. The Dr. Hedman page over the hospital PA actually harkens back to the real doctor code system used in many hospitals for situation alerts without alarming or alerting visitors. For example, paging Dr. Red to an area meant a fire, paging Dr. Strong meant to call security to deal with a combative patient. Let's just say that if you hear Dr. Brown being summoned, you should try and get upwind.
Are we procedural?
Not yet. We're waiting on the call from admissions. What have we got?
All 6 protocol requirements either met or being met. First, we have an intact live brain in a 25 to 30-year-old Caucasian woman nearly transected by a cement truck. Now, her injuries are incompatible with sustained life. The fact that she's still alive testifies to a strong will to live. We have a 25 to 30-year-old female Caucasian DOA, a probable cerebral aneurysm. 3 doctors not connected with our team are confirming her death. Her husband is en route to the hospital.
Enter Mary Frances's husband, a charmingly gruesome-looking fellow, not actually played by Vincent Schiavelli, but by...
Jonathan Banks starred in Breaking Bad, Dexter, Sequest, Wise Guy, Falcon Crest, and Commander Nuveen Kroll in Otherworld, the series, episode Village of the Motor Pigs? Why am I watching that?
What's my boy do without his mama? What are we gonna do?
Anyway, the hospital staff attempt to console husband Jack before attempting to get his permission to donate Mary Frances' body for the transplant experiment.
Please listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you. There was another woman injured at the incident where your wife died. This woman's body suffered fatal injuries, but her brain is unharmed. She'll die without immediate surgery. And right now we have a team of surgeons assembled ready to perform a miraculous procedure which could save her.
What's it got to do with me?
With your permission, they can place this woman's brain into your wife's body. And we believe this woman will have a chance to live. What you have to understand.
He doesn't seem too enthusiastic.
Are you out of your minds?
You know, as a point of fact, there's really not a lot of advantage performing a brain transplant over a head transplant. The head transplant, you have to reconnect the spinal cord, the larger veins and arteries in the neck, airways, esophagus, etc., which is, as a matter of fact, aside from the spine, a tested procedure. With a brain transplant, you have to reconnect 12 pairs of cranial nerves, including the optic nerves, a number of tinier blood vessels, and all the while manhandling a brain out of one skull and popping it into a new one, while keeping the thing alive and tethered to a life support system, without damaging it. Plus, of course, the spine, which you have to reconnect anyway. There's some experimental research on the subject indicating the brain alone might be less subject to immune response or rejection from the donor body, but immunosuppression is already such a fairly well-covered field in regards to transplant surgery that I'd be hard-pressed to justify attempting a much more complicated surgical procedure just to attempt to avoid it. Granted, I suppose if you were attempting to perform a radical gender or identity reassignment via brain transplant, this might seem appealing. It would be frankly safer and easier just to simply carve the face off the donor body and graft it onto the donor head. Perhaps not during the same procedure, later operation, keeping the isolated face alive by attaching it parasitically to the body's blood supply and some out-of-the-way place, at least until the patient was stabilized enough for what is frankly a minor cosmetic operation over a hardly necessary lump of flesh. Anyway, back to the Lifetime movie.
Too distraught to even consider it, much less agree, Jack goes to leave, but is met with some serendipitous guilting.
Sorry about your wife, Mr. Modine.
Yes, sir, me too.
At least the kid got out okay.
What do you mean, got out okay?
That other woman that got run over by the truck, she saved his life. Pushed him out of the way.
I want Mommy.
So remember, even when human life is on the line, the only sure way of getting through to the proletariat is through shame.
Consent given, Doc Matthews dispatches his team, pausing only to confer with the staff buzzkill.
What's the matter, Dean?
I just can't help feeling that this could turn out to be an unhappy day for medicine. So be it.
No, wait. Why?
Who knows what God in his heaven thinks of all this? He may be reaching too high, Matt.
Before what God? A God repulsed by the miserable humanity he created in his own image? I will not be shackled by the failures of your God. The only blasphemy is to wallow in insignificance. I have taken refuse of your God's failures, and I have triumphed.
Sorry.
And we get down to the meat of the story. Surgery.
She is a cute skull.
After Mary Frances' dead brain has been tastefully disposed of, The operation proceeds, and her husband is chauffeured up in a 6000 SUX and brought up to speed.
Mr. North? Yes. What in God's name is going on? Where's my wife? No one's told me anything. The police said she wasn't dead. Your wife is alive, Mr. North.
You experimented on my wife? Without it, she would have died. If all goes well, she'll live.
As what? A freak? What right do you have? What right?
Mr. North, we tried to contact you. In the final analysis, Dr. Matthews' obligations were to his patient, Mrs. North, who was dying.
What will she look like? She looks like the woman who donated her body that your wife might live.
Duh. In case anyone was tuning in late, we have our obligatory press conference.
It's been an extremely busy time for us. This morning at 5:35 a.m., Dr. David Matthews and his surgical team completed the first cerebro-somatic anastomosis performed on a human being. This would commonly be referred to as a brain transplant.
David Lucas, Associated News. Dr. Matthews, how do you know the woman would have wanted the procedure done on her?
There is a well-established precedent for the saving of unconscious life. It's called implied consent. We assume the unconscious would want to live.
So you've decided life is exclusively in the brain?
No, the brain cannot maintain life without the body. What we recognize as awareness of life, consciousness, this reposes in the brain.
Feel that his wife being used as a...
As the generally informative and sensible press conference proceeds, seriously, while it's appreciated, these people have no sense of theatrics.
Until after the...
What's wrong? Is something wrong with Julia? Don't you have to tell me?
We're brought to us by city paramedics. We're called...
We get to see the twitchy responses of the family members and cut to...
The question is valid. Do we offer an available, though radical, life-saving procedure to a Jane Doe? Or should she be left to die while we debate the pros and cons? So if, while surgeons probe the mysteries of the body, the soul seems abandoned, it is not so. I feel quite confident in reassuring you, if you need such reassurance, that God in his infinite wisdom will watch out for the soul, especially on the eve of his son's birthday. Good night, and God bless this Jane Doe.
Symbolism? Anyway, wow, surprisingly reasonable and sympathetic religious viewpoint in a science fiction film. I haven't seen something like this since the original War of the Worlds.
I think we should try to make them understand we mean them no harm.
But they're not human. Dr. Forrester says they're some kind of advanced civilization.
If they're more advanced than us, they should be nearer the Creator for that reason. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death,
Okay, possibly bad example. Moving on.